Looking at consequences versus looking at the act of crime, one may reason that the consequences should determine the punishment because the punishment should be equivalent to the damage done in the situation. On the other hand, others believe that the punishment should be based off the action, not the consequence, believing that if the same crime was committed, one at a chain and one at an independent store, the punishment should be to the same degree because both caused property damage and both were unethical. No matter the amount of property damage done, the punishment should be the same because the action is the same. While it depends on the person and their moral standards, it is important that the results of a dilemma have to be considered when determining the ethical judgment of a situation in certain cases.
This brings up the question of whether it is possible for the results of an action to outweigh any unethical means. Do the ends ever justify the means? The Milgram study occurred in 1963 at Yale to question the justifications that the war criminals used during the Nuremberg trials of the genocide that occurred during the Holocaust. They justified their actions with defenses based on obedience, meaning that they were just following orders from their superiors. He wanted to establish whether or not people really do obey authority figures, even if the orders are morally wrong. In order to understand how people could obey in such atrocities, volunteers were told that they were doing scientific research to help improve memory. Separated by the screen, the teacher would ask the learner questions and administer an electric shock when the answer was wrong and was told to increase the voltage with each wrong answer. The participants didn't know that the learner was really an actor and the shocks were actually harmless. The volunteers believed that they were actually shocking another person, but felt that they had to continue because of the authority figure telling them to continue. When they would refuse to administer the shock, they were encouraged by the authority figure to continue, who would say things such as, "You have no other choice but to continue, and it is absolutely essential to continue." The conclusions of the experiment found that ordinary people are likely to follow orders of an authority figure, even to the extent of killing an innocent human being. There were many ethical issues within this experiment. Firstly, there is deception, since the participants actually believed that they were shocking a real person, and this could have caused serious psychological damage. Also, there was no protection of the participants, for participants were exposed to extremely stressful situations that could have caused psychological harm, and many patients were visibly distressed. There is also an ethical issue with the participants' right to withdraw from the experiment. Researchers are supposed to make it clear that they are free to withdraw at any time, but when encouraging the participants to continue the shocks, they were essentially discouraging withdrawal.
In psychology and other human sciences, conclusions often outweigh the consequences when making these ethical judgments, as was the case in Milgram's study. In this case, Milgram thought that the results of this experiment would bring invaluable insight into human behavior and provide necessary explanations that the world so desperately needed regarding the Holocaust. The participants were volunteers and were paid, and Milgram thought that the illusion and deception that occurred during the study was necessary for the study to be successful. The participants were also interviewed afterward, and 83.7% said that they were glad to be in the experiment. Some people, however, did not have as positive reactions to the experiment. They even immediately, while the experiment was going on, they were trembling, sweating, and more. 3 even had uncontrollable seizures and pleaded to stop the experiment. These were all temporary and stopped once the participants were debriefed and understood that they were not actually shocking anyone. By today's standards, there is no way that this experiment would have ever been allowed to occur, but that would have kept the important knowledge obtained by Milgram from providing better understanding of human behavior in regards to obedience and authority figures. This just goes to show that culture and society also play a major role in ethical judgments. This occurred right after World War II and the Holocaust and the Nuremberg trials. Reasoning shows that with everything going on at that time, only answers really mattered. In the grand scheme of things, what he was doing was not considered unethical considering no one stopped him.